The Nintendo Switch 2 is so close, and Xbox is pretty much irrelevant at this point. However, they are sitting on a bunch of good games over there in Microsoft land, so it's safe to assume that they will be bringing over a bunch of their games to said Nintendo Switch 2. Just as they have been trying to do their best on Nintendo Switch 1, underpowered as it was. But that's in the past. Let's look at the future. What games will likely come to Switch 2? And what games will be less likely but would be very sick? Let's talk about it. Starting off with what I find likely. And that is Doom: The Dark Ages. Now, the previous two Doom games came to the Nintendo Switch 1 as miracle ports. Bethesda games have always been surprisingly good on Nintendo Switch 1. So imagine what they can do with the extra power of the Nintendo Switch 2. Speaking of Bethesda games, remember when Skyrim came to the Nintendo Switch as one of the first games on the system? Yeah, that was another miracle port. It worked really well on the system. Now with the way things are looking, The Elder Scrolls 6 will likely come for the Switch 3, but let's imagine it comes out on the Switch 2. I consider it very likely that if this game comes out before the Switch 3, then it'll likely also come out for the PS4, since that bad boy is gonna be supported until the day I die. Which feels like it's gonna come soon if my back pain is supposed to be believed. Not minding my own mortality, let's get into the next Bethesda game. That being the Oblivion remake. It's logical that after Skyrim came out for the Switch 1, people that got to enjoy it for the first time on that system would want to maybe enjoy the previous entries. And since the remake just came out, it makes sense to release a Switch version. I'd like to mention that with that logical mindset, you could also make a case for the Elder Scrolls Online, but that game seems to have become less relevant as the years went on. Last jump, Bethesda. After this one, I swear, I'm jumping off the Bethesda train. I swear. But let's talk about Starfield, Todd Howard's baby. Todd Howard's baby did not do too well in the world of gaming, so I bet they would want to port it over on the big new Nintendo console. Just to get some sales out of the door, you know? Now, sadly, I cannot leave Bethesda Game Studios behind without talking about the Fallout series. These games, not my cup of tea. They're medium, 50% likely that they'll come. It would be nice, honestly. I do kind of like them, but I've always been more of an Elder Scrolls guy myself. But I know people would go crazy for like some Fallout games. Now, let's just step away from Bethesda for just a little bit, alright? I've talked about them quite enough for now. Let's talk about something that Microsoft owns that still feels a bit weird to me. The Call of Duty series. And it's a semi-safe bet that the new Black Ops 6 game would do decently well on the Switch 2. To make it worth porting over at least. Though, let's be real. Half that game would already kill the entire poor storage of the Nintendo Switch 2. So let's get into something smaller. And I mean that literally. I'm talking about a little game called Grounded. A game where you play as small children. And I mean that literally, like ant-sized. It's a survival game. And survival games have been proven to do well on the original Switch. So, even though its relevance has waned a good bit, there's a chance Xbox could do it. I see it pretty likely. Now moving on to the next game, I want to talk about a little franchise, you might not have heard of it, called Indiana Jones. Wait. It's published by Bethesda. I can't seem to escape Todd Howard's grasp. No. Well, fine. Indiana Jones, The Great Circle. I have never played it. Nope, I know very little about this game. It's on my wish list, but I'm waiting for the price to go down, so yeah. Still, Switch port seems fun and quite likely to me. Now let's talk about something that I actually have played. That being the Gears of War series. The second best gaming series that ends its title with of War. These games are quite nostalgic for me. However, I bet we will first get one of the modern entries ported over, like Gears 5 or the upcoming Gears of War E-Day, before we ever see any of the original trilogy games. Or Judgment. Now, you can't really talk about Xbox without mentioning Halo. The Halo series is probably Xbox's most iconic IP. Actually, no, it's not. I forgot about Minecraft. Halo is probably Xbox's second most iconic IP. Though I'd like to see the Master Chief Collection on Switch 2, I somehow doubt it'll happen. If anything, we are getting Halo Infinite. A game I played for a week, got bored, and forgot it even existed shortly after. Next, I want to talk about something poetic, that being rare games. And I don't mean as in limited edition, no. I mean rareware games, the studio, that even to this day is very much associated with Nintendo. Them being behind the old Donkey Kong games and of course Diddy Kong Racing, baby! You can't... Nintendo can't ever make a racing game as cool as Diddy Kong Racing. So yeah, let's talk about Diddy Kong Racing. I doubt it's gonna happen for a while, but Diddy Kong Racing coming to NSO is something I'd love to see happen within my lifetime. However, I doubt it will happen. At least I have some hope. I have a bit of hope that maybe it'll come when Nintendo needs something big to win people over to subscribe to NSO. In the meantime, let's talk about something that I do see happen coming from Rareware, coming to Nintendo Switch. And that is Rareware's very own Sea of Thieves. The game that I always thought looked fun in YouTube videos, but every time I played it, I just got blown to bits. I just got blown to bits while I was trying to learn how to sail. It's a good bit of fun, eh? So while I'm personally not that interested, I do think it will happen very likely. It's a safe bet. It's one of the safest bets I've taken so far. Now coming from a game that I don't really care for to a game I would die for if it were to happen to come to Nintendo Switch. A game that I see 0% chance of happening, but it would bring world peace if it happened. And that is Rare Replay. Rare Replay is unironically my favorite Xbox game. Though I'll admit, calling it a game feels sorta like cheating. See, Rare Replay is a collection of the older games developed by Rareware. These include games like Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts, Cameo, Elements of Power, and Viva Pinata. And many more, but let's talk about Viva Pinata being my main reason for wanting this to happen. It is such an underrated gem. But here is the main problem with the chances of Rare Replay coming to Switch 2. See, Rare Replay is pretty much the only game that is only playable on Xbox consoles. Well, that is if you don't count streaming on Game Pass, that is. That's because from what I can tell, it seems to use Xbox's backwards compatibility emulation to function. When you press the Xbox button, it opens the old 360 menu on a lot of these games, so it's definitely very difficult to get working on a device that is not an Xbox. So yeah, it's probably not happening, but oh boy do I wish it would. So yeah, that covers my list of Xbox games that are either likely or very not likely to happen coming to Nintendo Switch 2. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. By the way, Xbox put Blinks the Time Sweeper on Switch 2, you cowards. So I just got done narrating this whole video And then I remembered something. A game that is an easy slam dunk because Xbox loves porting it over to everything that exists. And that is Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, I don't know how it slipped under the radar while I was narrating it, but here while I'm editing it, I wanted to add it. Forza Horizon 5, very likely, very fun, one of my favorite racing games. I also just put it in the gameplay of the back of this video because fun game, good gameplay. Yeah, thank you again for watching and bye.